Welcome to Lakers Central. We're doing a pregame show. Once again, I'm Alex, that's Vinay. The Lakers are undefeated, Vinay, in the preseason so far. We've got to see LeBron and Anthony Davis play the first half of the last game against the Suns. Highlights below, anyone that's tuned in. And they look good, man. But before we get to the game, how are you doing this evening?
I am doing pretty good this evening. Looking forward to seeing. I don't think they've released the starting lineups, but okay, never mind. We're
Did they?
starting to see some stuff about the starting lineups. It looks like KCP is going to start.
Ah.
Uh, Looks like Phoenix is running the same starters that they ran last game.
Mm-hmm.
Caruso will be coming off the bench. Dennis Schroeder is not playing because of his tweaked ankle, and so I'm guessing the starting lineup may be like I'm guessing it's like some version of KCP, Braun, AD. Braun and AD are playing tonight, right?
I haven't seen anything yet. So,
Oh yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know what the starting lineups are, but to answer your question, because your original question is how am I doing, I'm excited to see the Lakers and finally get this last preseason game out of the way, and I'm sure other Laker fans are too as well.
a short off season, a really short preseason, and the Lakers play the Clippers. What, October 22nd? They open the season, so what a quick turnaround, man. But I want to talk. I really just want to talk about the game, even though I know there's a lot of news going on with the Lakers and some of their past executives and players. But what do you expect tonight out of the Lakers? You think LeBron and Anthony Davis play anything more than the first half?
Yeah, I don't know if they're really going to. It seems like even the first like couple games of the season are probably going to be like an extended preseason for these guys. They're just going to
Yeah.
kind of work them into shape. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like literally the extremes, Like it's just like they may not play at all, or they just may play the same, or they may play like slightly more minutes than they did last game.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what they do. Really, I think the thing that I'm sort of looking forward to keeping track of and seeing is, if Kuzma can keep up his production like he
Yeah.
has, if Taylor Horton Tucker. I'm actually curious to see if Tucker is going to adjust to the physicality that the Phoenix Wings were playing against him, to see
Mm-hmm.
if he adjusts. Like that's like the key thing I want to see, because he seems like a really smart kid and he seems like he quickly adjusts to things. So I wouldn't be surprised if even on a 1 day turnaround, somebody turned around, or somebody on the coaching staff told Tucker like, "Hey, just do this and do that,"
Yeah.
and what's it called? He has a better game today. So especially with no Dennis, he should get some more time on the floor. So
Yeah.
very curious to see how they all look. Caruso's back. We didn't really get to see him very much at all. So I'm going to be curious to see what he looks like. The three development guys that we have on this roster, Caruso, Kuzma, and Tucker. Those are the guys that we get to watch today.
I'm really interested in seeing Kuzma and Taylor Horton Tucker. I want to see them continue to play well in the preseason. But Caruso, man, like you said, we saw him in the first game, and then he had that hip issue, and we haven't seen him since. I'm interested in seeing him play. Obviously, he's been a really good piece for the Lakers, but I want to see how he plays in connection with Taylor Horton Tucker, because all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden Tucker has emerged at least in the preseason, and I want to see how Vogel plays. If he plays those guys together, I assume he will, because Talen's been really great operating with the ball in his hands. We know that Caruso he might be an all league defender, man. Like I think that might be a reasonable thing to expect out of him this year. So I want to see what they look like together in that backcourt. And like you said, with Dennis not playing, I mean, there's minutes there to go around. And so I want to see what they look like. And more than anything, I want all these guys to come out of this preseason game healthy. Like no tweaks, no twist. I want these guys to be as close to 100% as they can, given the shortened off season and going into this game against the Clippers, in which
Mm-hmm.
opening game against the Clippers, whatever side of the tracks you're on with those two teams, I would imagine it's going to be overanalyzed, right? If the Clippers beat the Lakers, it's going to be
Of course.
overanalyzed. The Lakers beat them, it'll be overanalyzed. So I just want to see these guys come out of this preseason healthy.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It'll be a really really interesting thing to see. I mean, ESPN and the narrative machine, the NBA narrative machine. I mean, Laker fans. I don't even think it's just Laker fans. I think fans in general. I think
Yeah,
Nets fans are seeing it right now too.
yeah,
They're experiencing a lot right now too. Like the amount. NBA media today is not interested in basketball analysis. They're interested in gossip and the TMZ-ification of stuff that goes on.
Hmm.
So like it's going to happen if the Lakers like historically like we've seen so many teams that have like this malaise on opening night when they get their rings. It's very emotional. They don't even care about the game. Like they're just excited to get those rings and just talking shit. And then they end up getting blown out, right? Like the Warriors won it. The Warriors famously they signed KD in like the very first game that he played against the Spurs. They got blown out or something like that
Hmm.
by Kawhi when Kawhi was still on that team. So like I'm sure if something like that happens, like I wouldn't even pick the Lakers to win on opening night.
Yeah.
I would actually find it. I would not be surprised at all if they ended up losing opening night, just because it's a short turnaround, man. Like they just what they haven't even. We don't even know if they're getting the rings for sure on opening night.
Yeah.
Or what's going on. Like I think they said that they don't want to raise the banner until they actually have fans in the arena, so the fans can be part of that experience. So it's like stuff like that is all like it's that stuff like matters to the players, and
Hmm.
so I wouldn't be surprised if like ESPN's like, oh, are the Lakers hung over from a championship and all that sort of stuff. But it's a long season. Like right now, like a lot of folks are like, oh yeah, the Nets look like they're going to be tough to deal with, but it's like it's a long season. Like
Hmm.
people can get hurt, or you have small things here and there. So I'm laying off the narrative stuff. Obviously, we've seen today the narrative stuff that's going on. We've seen Twitter personalities decide to cast their aspersions in regards to Lakers and Clutch and LeBron, as they always do, because they like to invoke the name of
Yeah.
Rich Paul as the big NBA boogeyman whenever it comes to somebody else doing something wrong. So that kind of stuff's always going to happen. That's going to be like the norm. That's what social media has done to the Lakers. Like everything that people used to complain about behind closed doors, they're just going to push it forward. So I wouldn't, like I said, man, what we want is like as close to 100% healthiness for our team by postseason. And I'm not worried about wins. I'm not worried about losses. Like I will ride the roller coaster of the season of
Right.
getting mad and being happy at certain wins and stuff like that. But even the small stuff that we've seen so far has been spectacular. Like some of that 3-4 minute segment of super top tier defense by the Lakers in the second quarter of last game was
Hmm.
phenomenal. Um, and seeing these younger guys start to figure it out would be great too as well. So like Schroeder's ankle tweak, we don't want stuff like that. We want to be really safe with it. With Caruso's hip thing, we want to be safe with it. These kinds of small things will happen throughout the season. So
Yeah.
more important than anything is health. So I'm not worried about ESPN narratives. I'm not worried. I saw John Hollinger use his Borg thing, his Borg and board data. He's just like, yeah, they'll probably be fourth. Like, I didn't actually care about the seeding part. I was like, yeah, they may be like a second or third seed. But, if they actually care about having a high seed because they think that maybe the arenas will open up by the time maybe postseason comes around, maybe they will take the first seed so they can get home court advantage throughout the entire throughout the entire playoffs or all the way through the finals or something like that. That would be pretty awesome if that happened. So um, I'm not stressing all that sort of stuff. It's just right now is the time where people are going to be doing their coronations early. A lot of non-Laker fans want to see their team already back on the court because they want to dethrone the Lakers and dethrone LeBron and stuff like that. So they're going to be extrapolating a lot of stuff. So we're chilling, man. We haven't even gotten our rings yet or done our championship ceremony on our home court yet. So we're chilling.
Yeah, I think health is important, especially with guys like Schroeder, who they have to get used to playing with LeBron and Anthony Davis, and you have a couple other new guys on the roster. So health is key. I saw the Hollinger thing also. I am so tired of quote unquote the smart guys in the room inventing their own math to say who's good in the NBA and who's not. Like this is really simple, man. 2 plus 2 equals 4. You don't need advanced calculus to figure out that a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis is going to be good. I felt like we went through this whole nonsense last year when the team certainly didn't have the depth that this one does, and so things like that I think get really ridiculous. You alluded to it earlier, the stuff with Jerry West, and then people bringing up Rich Paul and Clutch. It's like like we do this way too much. Like, let's just talk about what the topic is at hand. This Lakers team is really good, and they have an opportunity to do something special. You know, health willing, they will be right there at the end of the season, and I don't know where they will finish throughout 1 through 8. Um, Many people didn't think they'd be the 1 seed last year in the West, and I think this team has the opportunity to be the 1 seed this year. Whether or not they decide to do it or they're healthy enough to do it is another story, but they certainly have the talent to do so. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody should be looking at what the Lakers have done and bringing in their 2 superstars and building a roster around those said superstars of a mix of veterans and young guys as a blueprint, right? Like we always talk about the blueprints of San Antonio, the blueprints of OKC when they got their 3 MVP, eventual MVP players,
Mm-hmm.
other rosters, even down in Miami, the culture that Pat Riley has built over the last decade or 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
What the Lakers have done is nothing short of spectacular. And I think people oftentimes just think it's simple for the Lakers to be good because there's palm trees, there's movie stars, there's a lot of money in LA, but like you can look across the hall and see that it is not as simple as just that, right? So as far as I'm concerned, the Lakers have done everything right. We haven't heard if they're going to get their rings on opening night. It's been such a quick turnaround that I don't know if they had an opportunity to even get those rings done. I mean, usually images or something leaks. Nothing has leaked yet.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe not getting those rings on opening night could be a good thing because there is a malaise when you get that those banners are dropped and those rings are handed out and everyone is, happy for you. Now, granted, fans won't be in the stands at Staples Center, so that'll obviously be different. And the league
Yeah.
did say that they approved 7 or 8 teams to allow
Yeah.
partial fans or something. I thought it was interesting that all those teams were bottom feeders essentially. Like none of them were the big markets of the NBA. And so I wonder if that had something to do with maybe those teams needing more income or something like that. But I don't know, man. I hope we beat the Clippers on opening night because there's a lot of talk going on right now. Not because of the Lakers, but because of the what's going on with the other team, the JV team, as I like to refer to them.
Well, they're dealing with a completely separate situation in itself. I'm very saddened to hear that a lot of it continues to involve a former
Yeah.
Laker legend of our own. But that's just kind of the nature of how things kind of have worked out for that team. So I know we're going to cover it on our NBA Weekly pod,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to dwell too much on it. I really don't want to give them too much airtime. So I'm just going to say the same thing I said this morning. I understand that it's a business and you got to say what you got to say when you're recruiting free agents. I'm just disappointed. That's all. And I don't expect somebody who's trying to acquire a free agent from um, to pry away a free agent from the Lakers to speak very highly of the Lakers. I would expect them to say the worst things that they possibly could. It's just like I wish I never had listened. I wish I had never read that article or heard that voicemail. You know what I mean? Like I would rather not know that was ever said, and just accept the fact that we weren't able to land Kawhi, which is fine. But as it relates like to the Lakers moving forward, like it's sort of telling that like some of the stuff that we've sort of gone through and the success we've had
Mm-hmm.
is it stayed consistent. Even about learning about like Dennis Schroeder, learning about Wes
Yeah.
Matthews signing, which we kind of knew about a little bit in free agency, that was pretty awesome. But I'm just looking forward to seeing all of this sort of come together. I think it's going to be real good. I think we've gotten some questions that we could probably answer but before we get into the pregame. You want me to read one of these out?
Yeah,
Or do
I'm
you
gonna
want
bring
to
it up. I'll bring it up
go for
right
it?
now. So that's from Virgo N22 NJ. Shout out to you. Thanks for the question. What would be your ideal starting lineup? And Vinay, I'll let you go first. Have you had time to figure out what your ideal starting lineup would be?
Yeah, so I think the ideal starting lineup for the Lakers, the 3 guys that are already set in stone, are going to be obviously Braun, AD, and I think Gasol for sure is going to be the
Mm-hmm.
starting 5 for the Lakers. The real question has been who are the backcourt mates for LeBron
Yeah.
and that group, and so a lot of people have been debating between Wes and KCP. So one of the thoughts that I have had is that if Vogel, for the sake of continuity, as the team starts to figure out the offense and the integration and stuff like that, like I wouldn't be against them starting KCP and Wes Matthews, especially considering how well THT has played and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I know that we kind of run into a skill redundancy thing now because if we bring Schroeder off the bench and we bring THT off the bench. Now you have two guys who kind of need the ball in their hands. Like THT can play off the ball, so can
Right.
Schroeder too. But like the lead guard role becomes a little bit tricky. So I understand that not being the case. So if we have to turn one of those variables into a constant, which is one of the players has to be Dennis Schroeder, right? Like one of the starters has to be Dennis Schroeder. Then I would say that the person that should play across from Dennis Schroeder is actually Wes, not KCP. And the reason why I always pick Wes is because Wes is more equipped to be a good power wing defender, like Danny Green was. I mean, Danny Green wasn't that great, but he's better than Danny Green. And KCP is a little bit smaller. KCP is better for chasing guys around screens and that sort of thing. So I think if the Lakers feel that they can start Schroeder and they want to balance out the shooting and stuff like that, and stagger in guys with shooting and defense and stuff like that, it may make more sense for them to bring KCP off the bench. But at the same time, KCP does have a lot of familiarity already with LeBron and Anthony Davis. He knows how to run his lanes and all that sort of stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me at all for the Lakers starting lineup on opening night to be something like Dennis Schroeder, KCP, Braun, AD, and Gasol, just because of the familiarity of it. And I also wouldn't be surprised to see Vogel switch lineups in and out based on what he thinks the defense is going to look like, what the offense looks like. So to be honest, the ideal starting lineup is whoever we're playing against. Like if we're playing against a team that has two really good on ball scores, like if it's like Kyrie and the Nets are playing around like Kyrie and Spencer Dinwiddie, may make more sense to play KCP and Wes at the same time. But who knows? It'll be really interesting to see how they kind of figure that process out.
So from what I saw just in that one game that Schroeder and LeBron played, I'm not starting Schroeder. Now, it's like a tiny sample size. I think what ends up happening is, at least in that game, like a lot of Schroeder's strengths get negated because LeBron is, LeBron, and he's dominating the ball. And so I would probably say that along with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Marc Gasol, I'd go KCP because of continuity. And KCP played out of his mind in the bubble. And so I'd go KCP. Obviously, he's a clutch client, and he makes, $12 million or something like that. Now he got a raise. So I'd go KCP, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Mark. And then I'd probably go Wes as well. I'd go Wes as the other guard, and just see what happens. Again, I think this always comes down to what the matchups are for the Lakers. But I think if you do that, and then Schroeder's your first guy off the bench or your first guard off the bench, some of what he does is negated by LeBron being out there, for all of his minutes, right? And so, or if you're going to start Schroeder, then someone needs to go to the bench a little bit earlier, him or LeBron. And Vogel will figure out, how he wants to do that part. But that's kind of how I see it. And let me get to this other question that we got here.
Yeah, thank you, Virgo, for the question. That was a wonderful question.
Definitely, and Sonic Fighter 25 says he'd start Wes and KCP. Yeah, Sonic, I agree, man. I could see them getting out on a break and LeBron James, KCP and Wes filling the wings, and LeBron being able to either go down the middle or hit one of those guys on the wings. But also, to kind of double back on my point about LeBron, if you've got Marc Gasol on the court also, he's going to create offense as well. And so now you've got LeBron, Marc Gasol, and potentially Dennis Schroeder on the court at the same time. Not that can't work, but I think there ends up being just a little much to be on the floor at one time. But I trust Frank Vogel. Like, if there's anything we've seen, Frank Vogel clearly knows what he's doing. And so I think that you're going to see a mix of lineups to start the season, just because this is just what it's going to be. And then as the season goes along, we'll really know what the starters look like. But Vinay, is there any chance you would start Caruso?
You know what? Against teams that have like 3-guard lineups, I wouldn't mind starting him if you needed like a dedicated defender. Caruso's best responsibility is literally just guard this guy and make sure that you make it as ridiculous as possible for him to score. So any teams that try to run a guy like that in their starting lineup would sort of make sense, but not too many teams run like 3 guards. That would also probably mean that like Davis is playing the 5. Or even if you're starting him next to KCP or you're starting him next to Wes, like I could see it, but at the same time, it's just one of those things where like I would imagine it's very, very situational. And I think if Vogel ever started Caruso, it would probably be because he wants to get his reps up next to LeBron and all these other guys and stuff like that. So I think, like, like we've said about a lot of other things, it's a good problem to have all these different guys that you can mix and match. I think it's going to be a much larger issue in the off season when these guys all want to get paid. And the Lakers need to figure out their financial situation as to who they can keep, who they can't keep, all that sort of stuff. But I would say, like, if that stuff about Schroeder is true, that like he kind of let them know that he was only going to come if he got a starting spot, I would expect Schroeder to be the guy there. It's just going to come out to what the defense looks like it's going to depend on what the defense looks like, whether KCP or Wes is in that spot. And,
Right.
I'll just be curious to see who it is. If the Lakers come out gangbusters on offense in first quarters, Dennis and whoever's next to him, they may just keep that spot because you have to remember, like, actually Dennis has done a pretty solid job where he's set up his teammates and stuff like that, and then like he kind of turns into the scorer role. I just don't know how much instruction he actually requires when it comes to switching from scoring. Make plays to go and score. Like that was a frustration with Rondo last year. Like when he had LeBron and AD, sometimes like the shot would be there for him. Like the lane would be there for him, but he would always look for LeBron and AD, and we'd be like, no, like the defense knows that you're not going to attempt the shot. Like you have to at least like be willing to try and take a shot at the rim or take a three. And if you don't, we could see the difference between regular season and the playoffs when it ended up being the result. So we'll see. It's like I said, I think that it's going to be, I don't think Frank is going to be experimenting. Like he's not going to do like what the Clippers were doing last year where they just kept swapping a whole bunch of different starting lineups out. I think he's going to just try and get these guys as many live reps as he can next to each other. And I think you and I both kind of mentioned it last time that Schroeder looks like the one of all of the entire group that may take a little bit more time to fit in with the team just because of his style of play. So it's all right, man. Well, we've got time to figure all that stuff out. We got 72 games.
So let me bring up this question from Bob. He's already thinking to the buyout market. Bob, you're greedy, man. You are greedy, but who's the one player you want the Lakers to pick up in the buyout market, Vinay? Have you thought about that yet?
I don't know who the one player specifically would be, but I will say that the type of player that I think the Lakers should get is a long, big center. Like a like a JaVale McGee,
Dedmon?
Dwight Howard, athlete, center. I don't know if Dedmon is that guy. He's kind of an older guy. He does spread the floor and stuff like that. But we need like a real like tall center. And the reason for that is just because there may be games where Montrez is getting overwhelmed by a guy like Zubac or something like that, and teams may try to specifically put a big guy on him when he comes off the bench for that specific reason. So could be Dedmon, could be somebody else. But if the Lakers get a buyout, you can never have too many wings. But I would say the most important thing that they need to address is probably that center spot. If they can get that third center, the big, they should be fine.
So I did a video on Trevor Ariza because, Shams mentioned a week ago that the Lakers are monitoring his situation in OKC. I don't know what direction they should go, but if they end up going the direction of a wing, I love Trevor Ariza, man. 6'7", he's bigger than KCP and bigger than West. He's bigger than Caruso. There are people that think he's washed, but I was going back and looking at some of his time in Portland. He played really well in Portland. Yeah. Like he's not washed at all. I know he's been in the league for about 15 years, but like he looks really good. And so if by some chance he gets bought out, now OKC, as we know, Sam Presti loves draft picks and swaps and all that stuff. So Ariza, he might be able to flip Ariza for another asset. And if he can do that, well, then that's what he's going to do. But I would imagine that with OKC getting rid of all their veterans, just like Gallo, CP3, Schroeder, I don't really see the reason to keep Ariza. But if they can get Ariza, man, at 6'7", 223, why not, right? Like, to your point, you can never have too many wings. And we've seen with this Lakers team, when KCP has to guard Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, it's not because he's not working hard and he's not a good defender. They're just bigger than he is. They just shoot over top. And it's a bit more difficult to shoot over top of someone like Trevor Ariza. So I'd go for him if there's an opportunity.
And the way that we want to always think about it is Frank Vogel's substitution patterns, especially in the playoffs, are matchup based. They're not Doc Rivers style. This is the lineup and the rotation that I'm going to run. What the one thing that people don't give Frank enough credit for that he's extremely good at is that he'll turn around and he'll look to see what it is that one specific player that's giving the Lakers problems
Yeah.
is really really good at, and then he'll set up an assignment specifically that way. So when Duncan Robinson was giving us a shit ton of problems coming off of down screens and stuff like that, and he started to get
Yep.
loose as the season got better. Sorry, as the series progressed for Miami, he eventually went to Game 6. He says, "Okay, I'm playing Alex Caruso. We're going 3 guards, and I'm going to have him stick on there, or I'm going to have him stick on Tyler Hero, so that they can't run those DHO actions because Alex Caruso is really, really good at defending that kind of action and getting around screens and limiting those sort of opportunities for them." So, adding a body like Ariza allows the Lakers to do something like that. If teams roll out 2 power wings and we don't want LeBron to have to defend them, so for example, if we run into the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals and we want to limit how much we have to put LeBron on Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, Ariza fits in there because we know that Kawhi is just going to shoot over KCP. And Paul George may too to some degree because KCP is shorter. So
Right.
you may get like a Wes Matthews, Trevor Ariza matchup against those 2 guys. That way LeBron gets matched up on like Marcus Morris or, like there's mismatches that they can create for each other and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things that they can go. But that is so far away. So I don't know
It
who's going to
is.
be available. But knowing Sam Presti, he's going to flip him. He's going to hold him and he's going to flip him for like 2 first rounders or some nonsense like that to a desperate team. So, I'm not sweating that too much.
Well, speaking of bigger wings, at least one we have on the team, Alfonzo Mckinney. So Sonic Fighter 25 said Frank said Alfonso was going to get some burn tonight. He's 6'7", man. I mean, he's not a great 3-point shooter. He was in Cleveland. He came over in that JaVale trade. I don't know a whole lot about him, but what are your thoughts on him?
So my buddies that are Warrior fans, they're not like crazy about him, but they did say that he was able to sort of fill a role for the Warriors. I think especially when who went down? Sorry, KD went down and stuff like that. So he's like a corner 3 guy. He's like an able body. He's an athlete for sure. But like in terms of reliability, he's still like a guy who's like outside of the 12-man or 11-man rotation and stuff like that, which is why the Warriors had to call on him when they did. But who knows? Like he's a young kid. He's young. He's an athlete. I don't know what his shooting looks like now, but maybe the Lakers can get 5 to 7 minutes out of him. Like
Good
towards
point.
the end of games. Like I don't expect him to be part of the rotation, but giving Vogel able bodies to be able to use and see how he can use in different manners is always really interesting. There's a reason why the Lakers didn't cut him and they didn't, stretch his salary or nothing like that. And so, there may be something that they can scrounge out of him. I don't expect him to be an impact guy, but, he's an able body, which is always a good thing to have.
So Bob is looking to buyout market, the trade market, everything. So this is an interesting question right here. If THT continues to play well, do we trade somebody to get him more minutes?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think that is going to be. I will say this though, if THT continues to play well, and even if Kuzma is also playing very well, the noise around his like emergence is going to like Kevin O'Connor already covered it, right? And he works for the Ringer, so that's already a very big publication. O'Connor has been clearly paying very, very close to Lakers Twitter and lifting some of his stuff from the smart folks on Lakers Twitter for his platform, which is fine because that's just kind of how the Ringer and writers on that platform work. But the noise around the Lakers is going to become very loud as it relates to Kuzma and THT and all of his minutes and stuff like that. So I don't think the Lakers are going to look to trade anybody to give him more minutes. I don't think he's going to demand more minutes either.
Right.
I think Vogel will find a way to fit all those guys in. The main thing I want to say is that if there is an opportunity for the Lakers to get better, I don't think Pelinka is going to avoid that opportunity. But at the same time, we only have a 3-game sample size of Tucker. We don't have a live ball, full real NBA competition perspective on how good Tucker can be or how good he may be. We saw 2 games where he played outstanding against the Clippers, and then we saw him struggle up until we saw him be sort of average
Hmm.
in this last Suns game up until like the fourth quarter. But then at that point, the Suns were basically playing their third stringers, right? So we know he's probably he's better than a third stringer capacity, but
Right.
it still remains to be seen what he looks like. I'm very hopeful. I think he has all the intangibles and the tools and the physical skills and stuff like that to be great. Um, but just for the sake of, just like not pushing the train too fast, um, I would just wait and see what he looks like, see if he can stay healthy, see how he deals with um, guys like Kyrie or guys like these dynamic guards in the Western Conference. See how he
Yep.
deals with staying out of foul trouble against guys like that. See how his technique. Like he's been getting buried on screens. Like he has a tough time getting around screens. The same bowling ball body that he has that makes it easy for him to get to the rim
Yep.
is a struggle for him to get around screens. So those are small things that he has to work on. So obviously we want him to be, we want everybody to play at an all-star level. So if he can do that, that would be wonderful. But it's a good problem to have, and I think the Lakers will manage it carefully. I don't think they'll move anybody until they absolutely it's like obvious, like, hey, we got to move this guy because we got to free up some minutes for him.
Yeah, I mean, the chatter's already started that if THT plays well, that somehow impacts Kuzma's minutes. I don't believe that at all. I think that
No.
Frank will figure out how to give them both the minutes that they need. But I did read that Frank and Rob have already met with Kuzma and his agent, and
Mm-hmm.
they've tabled contract extension talks right now. And I would imagine they don't want any of that to kind of get in the way of what they're trying to do this season. But what
Mm-hmm.
I read that they told Kuzma, you're going to have to scrap for minutes on this roster just like everybody else. And so it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to play 30 minutes a night or 25 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm.
They're telling him straight up, hey, this is what needs to happen. And so I expect Kuzma to continue to work hard. There's been, by all accounts, man, he's been a hard worker the entire time he's been in Los Angeles,
Yes.
despite what I think many people think about him on social media. And so he's got to play well. He's not gonna start. I mean, if he plays really well, I mean, there's always an opportunity for him to start maybe at the two guard or something like that. But in any case, he's got to scrap for minutes. But whoever's playing well, Kuzma or THT, I don't think that they're going to move anybody at this point to give THT more minutes. And frankly, just because he's been really great now, even if he's really great in the regular season, he's still only 20 years old. And you have to ask yourself, can you rely on that once the playoffs start? I know he looked good in limited minutes against the Rockets, but if they were
Right.
to move a veteran player just because he's playing well now and they get into the playoffs and all of a sudden the lights are a little bit brighter than normal, things could go wrong that way. So the Lakers don't make moves just because somebody's playing well. They usually they keep their guys around. They might add something to the team if they need something. And to your
Yeah.
point, when there was a hole last year where they need that kind of bigger wing, physical guy, they went and got Markieff, right? Like that's just what they did. And so
Right.
as of right
And
now, I
and
don't think that they would move Kuzma.
and like some of the financial situations, specifically Dennis Schroeder,
Hmm.
Montrezl Harrell, Markieff Morris, like we saw what happened with Rondo. Like we saw what happened with Avery Bradley. We saw what happened. Well, Dwight went for a vet, but we saw what the situation
Right.
ended up being. The Lakers saw an opportunity to get better and get younger. And
Hmm.
they're going to run into the same situation this offseason, right? Like Montrez is with us now, but Montrez may try to get paid a little bit more. He may get more money from somewhere else. Schroeder may get paid with the Lakers, or he may get like a really ridiculous offer with somebody else and decide
Hmm.
to go there. And the same thing with Markieff. Markieff's early bird rights will get him like probably at least around 10 million a year. If you have to pay Kuzma, Markieff, and obviously Caruso, Kuzma, and THT, they're also like either restricted or unrestricted
Yeah.
free agents. If you have to pay all those different guys, we need to figure out like which direction do we want to go in, right? Like if Schroeder gets too expensive, then now all of a sudden Horton Tucker becomes a priority if he's good that
Hmm.
we have to hold on to. So does Alex Caruso. If Markieff Morris decides to leave, then now Kuzma becomes an important person as a stretch four kind of guy. If Montrez decides to stay or decides to leave, so those kind of like domino sort of things that we have to sort of think about is what's important. And I'm reading my timeline right now, and it looks like no Chris Paul tonight, which means the guy. Let's see who else is not playing. Oh, Javon Carter is starting. So the guy that was actually giving Horton Tucker some trouble,
Hmm.
just because of his activity and stuff like that, will be starting tonight. But it looks like Chris Paul's not playing. He's a late scratch, so he's not playing tonight. I still haven't seen the starting lineup for the Lakers other than KCP starting, so I guess we'll find out. Well, I mean, we still got time, right? We got 15 minutes. Vogel likes to wait till the last moment, 30 minutes before the actual start of the game to find out. So um, it's a good problem to have when you have this much talent, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, Rob has been very, very smart with the entire domino effect.
Yep.
You know, like when he got Schroeder, he knew that the most important position to fill would be Wes Matthews. So he lined up those conversations perfectly. He went to Schroeder first. He said, "We need a backup point guard that could score. We have that spot ready for you." Schroeder said, "All right, good." They made the trade. Then they went immediately to Wes Matthews, and he said, "Look, we just traded for Schroeder, and we had to let go of Danny Green. We've got this huge hole in our starting lineup that we may need you to fill, and a role that we need you to fill." Wes Matthews is like, "Oh, perfect. I get to play for my father's team,
Yep.
and I get to compete for a title. So I'm going to go do that." And then that's when the Lakers were just kind of out in the open market, like, all right, who are we trying to sign? Who are we trying to get?
Mm-hmm.
They get Montrez as at their non-taxpayer, and then they go, all right, well, now we have this big hole. We have Montrez. Clearly, he's going to be our backup center. They're okay with Dwight Howard leaving because of that, but they know that they need to upgrade JaVale. So they reach out to Gasol. They're like, hey, look, we want to compete for a title. We know you do. We have this perfect fit for you. If we can make it work, would you want to come here? He's like, yeah, absolutely. I want to go there. My brother used to play for you guys, and I think Powell himself said that, like, he was like telling him go to LA or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so they move JaVale. They bring back a couple guys, and then who's the last person? I mean, obviously they took care of Anthony Davis, but the last person they have to take care of is Marquis, right? Like that was the guy that I was saying I'm worried that we're going to lose this guy, and he's actually really, really good. And lo and behold, Markieff comes back on a veteran minimum. They tell him, and that was one of his things, right? His thing was like, I'm only going to play on a team that has minutes for me, that and I have a cemented role and stuff like that. And voila, here we are. Now the Lakers have an abundance of talent. They've upgraded their positions, but now we have a problem. Taylor Horton Tucker is way better than he's looking way better than we expected him to be with the minutes that he's getting. So it's a good problem to have, But when we have stuff like Dennis Schroeder tweaking his ankle, Alex Caruso hurting his hip, these are the minutes for Taylor Horton Tucker. Like, these are the ones where they can do this, and I trust LeBron and AD to be excellent locker room guys, and even guys like Jared Dudley, Quinn Cook, who we brought back, to tell Taylor Horton Tucker, look, we know you're good. Don't worry, you'll get your chance. Like, you'll get the time, you'll get the chance. Like, just work with us. And I think that's a testament to the nature of this team, the synergy of this team, and the chemistry of the team. So that's the way I see it, man. Like, we've got a good ship. This ship is being run very well. I know a lot of people are concerned that maybe Kyle Kuzma may kind of, with these contract negotiations and him wanting to get paid, it may be, real crazy. But I think he knows. I think he wants to be here. I'm not going to lie. Like, I think he wants to stay in LA for as long as he possibly can if he can make the money work. I thought we were going to lose KCP. Bogdanovich got paid like $18 million. I was like, bro, he's going to ask for like 15, 16 million. And the Lakers somehow got him for much less than that. So I don't think he's going to ask for – he may ask for an extreme amount of money, but that may not be what he gets. So this season, it looks good. Okay, it looks like so they just released the starters.
Who do we got?
So no Schroeder. It's a KCP, Kuzma, LeBron, AD, and Gasol. So we get to see LeBron and AD tonight. And now we get to see what a KCP, Kuzma, who are two better cutters outside of Alex Caruso, how they get to work alongside. So LeBron's probably going to be playing his point forward role tonight. And we get to see how the Lakers kind of, if they mix in any of that off-ball action, off-ball cutting and stuff like that. So I'm actually kind of excited. I really want to see how that sort of works out for them.
I mean, I think they're going to come out looking pretty good tonight. Chris Paul's not playing. Devin Booker, he's going to be out there. He'll probably handle the ball a bit more. But no, look, you're everything you talked about, with our depth is that's why you want to have a deep team to kind of cover when some of these guys go down or when they need to miss time or whatever it is. And so this team is fine. Kuzma obviously is going to want to get paid. Look, whatever profession you're in, you should want to get paid. So I expect nothing less from him. But I would imagine that Puma, one of his bigger endorsements, probably want him in LA rather than Charlotte, right? Like, and not that Puma sell like Jordans or anything like that, but being in LA matters for guys like Kyle Kuzma and some of their endorsements. So he probably wants to be in LA, or I think he sticks around anyway. But unless someone comes and offers him a ridiculous amount of money, in which case he shouldn't turn it down. He should take the money and do his thing. But I am interested to see what KCP and Kuz look like tonight and start line up together. I want to see how they play with Marc Gasol because he's great at finding these guys, cutting to the basket. He leads them to the basket. So I want to see what they look like. And I'm glad we got starting lineups, man. So anything you want to add to the pregame before we sign off and get ourselves situated?
No, nothing to add to the pregame. I hope everybody enjoys. I hope all the Lakers stay healthy. And as always, I appreciate everybody who joins us on these pregames. Thank you for the questions, Virgo, Sonic, Bob. We saw you in the comments. Skills, your OTR guys were there in the comments too, as always, showing their support. We appreciate you guys. And girls, Icelander, Pers, we see you there. Abdur, we see you there. We appreciate everybody that joins these pre-games and post-games. We love it, man. We love talking about Lakers, and we love it when people show up and talk about it with us.
Drip too hard, man. What time is the game? It's 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific.
Yes. 30 minutes. 30 more, or no, sorry, not 30. 40 minutes, and then we'll game will be tipped. Lakers Twitter will be alive and well, I'm sure. And Alex, if you're wondering if Kuzma plays well, I will be posting more pictures of his photo shoot on our timeline.
Last time you did that, man, this picture kept popping up all over my timeline. And I knew it was because of you. I literally thought that when I saw the first picture, and that one picture, I didn't say this on the timeline, man, but that one picture of him with the scarf over his head, it really reminded me of that Kobe picture. I know I couldn't be the only one. Yeah,
So that's why I can't slander him for these photo shoots, because Kobe did that one damn photo shoot, and I don't know why he did it, but he did that photo shoot where he was wearing the all white, and I was like, bro, what are you doing? This makes no sense. And I was just like, they're gonna kill us for this. People are gonna make fun of you for the rest of your career for this. And Kuzma did the same thing. So I was like, I can't even make fun of Kuzma because my favorite player of all time freaking did the same thing. So whatever. But yes, I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can about Kuzma, and I think he responds to that because he's a young guy and he's part of this social media generation where when they get positive stuff, they seem to respond positively. Yes, that photo shoot was bananas. I don't know what Kuz is doing, but he's doing too much, Skills. So we'll see. We'll see if he continues doing stuff like that. It was hilarious, and I actually, what's funny? If he plays poorly, people are going to be posting those photos anyways, making fun of him. So it's all good, bro. That's just kind of how the game goes, man.
We've talked about it, man. This is fashion for a lot of these guys, right?
It is.
This is what they do. And look, Vinay, we're old enough to remember when Allen Iverson was the quintessential guy with the way he dressed in the NBA, and guys were following his lead with the big jerseys, the do-rags, the fitteds, and all that stuff. And then David Stern implemented that dress code, and the guys had to dress up. And I don't think there's a dress code anymore. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if there's still one, but I feel like this is almost a result of that, just the long-term effects of these guys. They take fashion seriously. And I mean, every now and then someone will post pictures of Tim Duncan in Jinko jeans or something like that, and I'm like, yeah, that's how it used to be.
He used to shop at Burlington Coat Factory or something like that to get his clothes. I used to be like, bro,
bananas.
What are you wearing? I mean, even now when I think about it, when I was back in high school, the way we used to dress, the denim shorts and all that sort of stuff that we used to be in style. And you're right. There was a big thing back in the day about Iverson, he was dressing too much the word always used was thug, right? They didn't want him dressing like a rapper in a music video, and then he had the cornrows and the braids and the tattoos and the jewelry, and kid from Virginia or whatever, that was his style. But this is the evolution of it, right? The NBA is oh, check out this drip or check out this fit or whatever it is. And these guys are just taking it to a new level, bro. I thought Russell Westbrook was all right, this is the very extreme.
Yeah.
But now everybody's doing the same thing. So I was like, all right, man, this is getting crazy now. And then you got what's this guy? You got Montrez wearing all kinds of jewelry and stuff like that everywhere he goes.
It's like Mr. T, man. He reminds me of Mr. T. I mean,
he's nuts, man. But you know what? I like it. I like that these Lakers, as silly and corny as some of them probably do seem, it's
Mm-hmm.
cool to have personality, man. If you feel
Yeah.
like you relate a little bit more to them, as players and stuff like that, when you got personality, I don't mind dad LeBron doing all the
Mm-hmm.
corny jokes that he does. That's just the way it is, bro. Like, how boring would it be if they were just like strictly blue collar basketball the whole time?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be kind of boring to talk about him. So
I mean, these
it's
guys, they got
fun, man.
personality. What can you, like? This is just like they have personality, and for the NBA, then you know, obviously Adam Silver cares about the on court product, right? But
Of course.
the NBA, like the way these guys dress, that's a part of the NBA ecosystem off the court, right? Like the
Yes.
memes and the 24-hour social media stuff. Like there's full blown discussions about what a guy wore, sometimes on national TV. Like that,
Yeah.
Adam Silver just counting money to the bank. But these
Yeah.
guys, when they dress the way they do.
Yeah, I mean, it just gives them more coverage. You have like entire like Bleacher Report has an entire account that just looks at what shoes that they wear. Like,
Mm-hmm.
check out the shoes that this guy wore in this game. Check out the shoes that that guy wore in that game. So it's just like that sort of stuff it's just part of their personality. Fashion is part of the personality. Whether you do a post game interview or not is part of your personality.
Yep.
Like the jokes that they make with each other that they share on IG, the
Mm-hmm.
vlogs that got like guys like JaVale do. It's all part of the personality. And I understand that the Lakers do have one particular person that's extremely annoying with his personality at times, and Kyle Kuzma for many fans. But I don't know how else to describe. Like, you know, how can I be mad at a 25-year-old kid? You know, like I don't
That's
even know
right.
what he's interested. Like I don't even know what he's interested in. So it's just like when I was 25, I was getting yelled at for all kinds of stuff, not by my parents, but just like people, just be like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? So it's just and his life is carried out in public. You know, like
Right. Right.
everything he does is for public consumption. So I'm not going to defend him when he does stupid stuff. I'm sure people and says stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it, man. You got to maybe he's doing it because he needs somebody to correct him, but I'm just enjoying it, man. Uh and so far, I mean, I did it the last game. I posted all those pictures of him. I only posted 2 pictures, but I posted them. Nobody got mad about it, so I'm gonna see what happens. Like moving forward, hopefully he doesn't let me down because I need him. I need contract year Kuz to be good, so I could keep posting more of his photo shoots and building his value up on Lakers Twitter.
Well, if you post those pictures, I'm sure they'll make it to my timeline. Even if you just post two, I mean, you got like 10,000 followers, so people are gonna obviously pay attention when you post that stuff. But shout out to Kuz,
I'm like,
man. These guys in their outfits, man. Like we're a little older, so it is what it is.
yeah, man, it is what it is, bro. Like it just you just gotta let them, man. When I go play pickup and stuff like that, I see some of the stuff that kids roll up in. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, what are we playing basketball? What are we doing, bro? Like, you guys showing up in like full warm ups and stuff like that. But you gotta like kids. Same thing with music, right? Like the rap that
Yep.
I used to listen to is not the same as the rap that kids listen to now, right? Like, just gotta enjoy it, man. I don't mind it at all. I'm rooting for this team's success, and I hope they stay healthy. And I'm sure we'll have a recap either of this game or we'll have like a
Mm-hmm.
recap of the whole preseason and just
Yeah.
kind of the stuff that we've learned. I'm working on a real in-depth piece on Kuzma and like him being more of a Klay Thompson-ish sort of player, so I'll have
Mm-hmm.
that out a little bit sooner than later, hopefully. But I'm looking forward to the game, man. I'm just great. I'm grateful that we got Lakers basketball back, and I hope we can get to a point where we can show up in Staples Center and root for this team.
I want to add this last point with the way these guys dress. So I did see that Dennis Schroeder, you know, he had that yellow streak, that blonde streak in his hair
Yes,
last year.
yes,
His
Simon
mom,
Phoenix.
that's exactly what reminded me of, man. Simon Phoenix, and his mom is a hairdresser, and she wanted him to
Oh,
go. Yeah, she wanted him to go full blonde, and he didn't want
oh,
to. So as part of like a compromise, he dyed a piece of his hair blonde for her, and then that's why this season he
oh.
decided to go back to his normal color, black hair. But yeah, that's why he did it because his mom's a hairdresser, and she wanted him to go blonde. So
I hope Schroeder's mom can convince him to go full blonde because I'm ready to post Wesley Snipes Simon Phoenix memes. Anybody in the chat that doesn't know what we're talking about, go look up Demolition Man.
we're
It's a
dating
movie
ourselves,
with
man.
it's a movie with Sylvester
Wesley Snipes,
Stallone and Wesley Snipes, and it is
amazing
a
movie.
fantastic movie. It
Yep.
is where we thought Taco Bell would get in 2020, but it's not quite there yet. So it's a great movie. And yes, you're right. We are dating ourselves, but I will share those memes if Schroeder starts balling out and goes blind. I'm gonna see if I can tweet at him or something like that and get him to Get him to go blonde.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to the pregame. We appreciate it. We hope you didn't mind us going off the rails a little bit and getting away from the game and just having some fun. It seems like you guys enjoyed that, man. But follow us on the timeline. You see at VKillem, give them a follow. You see me at Alex Holling, and then my main account, Lakers Central 365. We love talking to you guys on the TL, man. So we appreciate you, and we'll let you guys know if we're gonna go live after the game or not. I guess it depends, but we'll let you guys know. So
you're it's gonna be like 1 o'clock your time, bro. It's not up to me. It's up to Alex. So if you guys want Alex to get on, you're gonna have to follow him and peer pressure him into doing it. Because I'm on the West Coast. It's not late for me, but it's definitely late for him on the East Coast.
Well, we'll talk to you guys then. We may go live. Let's see what happens. We may go live tonight, but talk to you guys on the timeline. You've been watching Lakers Central.